Hello from Portland, Oregon. Is this an airport? It is not. This is the Portland Convention Center. And there are thousands and thousands of geologists from across the country, and in some cases from around the world, who are here to share their latest research. Talk after talk after talk. But today, I would like to go to the exhibit hall and meet a person for the very first time, and I think you will enjoy visiting with her. It's a beautiful sunny day here in downtown Portland. That's my bicycle that I brought down from Ellensburg. So I'm commuting my bicycle from a beautiful neighborhood north of here, the Sabin neighborhood in northeast Portland. So let's head toward the exhibit hall and allow you to experience this conference for just a little bit. This is the annual Geological Society of America conference. Went to these for the first time back in 1988 in Denver, and I've been going semi-regularly over the years. It's a mixture of different sessions organized by topic. There's no way you can sample even just a few of the talks compared to the volume that's offered, but there are some sessions that I'm very excited by. Thank you. Okay, we're in the exhibit hall right now, and we're going to go over and visit the Mountain Press booth. When you go to these geology conferences, there's all sorts of folks who have businesses related to the geology industry, so it's quite common to see them. And this is my first time meeting Chelsea, but I'm excited to get to know her here. Oh, hi. Go ahead. Hit your blue button here and then we'll be all set. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Your name, please?
Chelsea McRaven Feeney.
And from Mountain Press, are you truly working for Mountain Press Publishing?
Actually, I am an independent cartographer, editor, geologist.
Yes, that's great. So you have geology training.
Yes, I have a master's in geology from the University of Montana.
Okay.
And my undergrad was at Virginia Tech.
Oh.
And I spent many years traveling around the West, and then I found Mountain Press at a GSA in Portland in 2009.
So we're going to talk about your beautiful maps, but when you were a grad student, you weren't necessarily training to become a map maker, or were you?
Actually, I did an ed map for the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology. So that was my master's, is that I was given a quad, the Rock Creek Lake quad, just west of Deer Lodge in Montana. And I was given a 2-year budget, and they said, make the map, write a thesis, get out the door.
For your thesis to do that?
Yes, I did the Cenozoic evolution of the Gold Creek Basin in Montana. So I worked very closely with the Montana Bureau of Mines and Geology, bringing samples, talking about what I found, and created a map, made a poster for GSA, and then I did a stint, the GSA GeoCorps in Yellowstone after my master's. And after that, I gave a talk at GSA. So I did a poster and a talk, and then I handed my resume to Mountain Press. Said, do you have a geologist on staff working on your maps? And they said, we want you. So I kind of weaseled my way in.
Well, I got to tell you, could we grab the Oregon book real quick, just to get started, and then we'll just kind of wing it from there. Now, this is the first time we've talked, so like I assumed that that's Marley's book.
It is Marley's book.
I assume I was literally like saying, "Oh God, Marley spent all this time making all these maps." Did she?
Okay, so Marley's the exception to the rule. So she actually did create her maps, and so for these books, Washington and Oregon, my job was to standardize and clean them up and make them ready for publication. So a part of my job is using the maps that are provided by the authors.
Okay.
Sometimes our authors don't know where to start. So, for
Yes.
instance, New Jersey.
Please,
Yeah.
please. So let's get into
Okay. So this was the classic
I'm going
one.
to pause you just for a second.
okay.
Look, so just to give them a sense of this.
And we've already sold out of a couple on day 2 of the
Oh,
conference. So,
seriously. It's
but
fun
yes.
to see them all. Like if you're a collector person, it's
Well,
like, oh my God,
yes.
I got to get every one of these things.
And we have several different series. So the Roadside Geology series is very classic. We have this Geology Underfoot series that is expanding rather in-depth vignettes.
Okay.
We've got this is our random titles, not in
Yeah.
a series at all. And then,
Many preceding you.
yes, preceding me, for
Yeah.
sure. I've been with the company about 12 years now.
Oh,
So.
well, you are kind of an old timer then, huh?
Then we have a few of our kids' titles here, many more on our website.
Oh boy.
These are just a sampling. And then we have our State Rock series, so the Geology Rock series, which is expanding as we speak. This is the first 7 or 8 or so, and we've got Colorado and New Mexico that are also
Oh,
en
gosh.
route. They
Oh.
might even arrive before the end of the conference.
Okay, so that's who we're talking about, and
yes.
Mountain Press is the place to order these books. Okay.
Yes.
Now, yes, I'm
Okay.
interested in your, so you don't have your fingerprints over every one of these titles.
No, and only until recently you wouldn't know that I was the illustrator because I had to get my name on the front cover.
Yes, you did.
So let's see, back in 2009,
Good.
after the Yellowstone GSA GeoCore,
Yeah.
when I first got started, it was mostly just, here, take these maps, we just have to clean them up. And then we had authors say, here's the manuscripts, but I don't know how to do the road maps. And that was what New Jersey was. He handed over an entire book with no figures, no maps. And so that was an interesting project because I read the whole manuscript and I went through and said, okay, he's talking about these things, it needs to be on the map. And so that was probably my biggest jump in, is figuring out
Oh, wow.
what
Well, let's-
should be
Yeah.
on the map. So,
Is there like a little layout?
let's see.
Can I look over your shoulder and we can just see
Yeah,
a few of
sure.
the examples here?
And I will say,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot since 2009. I probably would do this book differently now.
It's okay. We can see your evolution here.
Yes, with every book. So Jennifer, my editor, calls me the living standard because I kind of learn from my own mistakes. But for instance, I start with the state map, the state geologic map, and I will cut from there. And previous books, I call them mini maps. They're only 5 inches wide, so I have to make sure that the information is presented clearly.
Yes.
But for instance, these folded rocks of northern New Jersey, they're just slivers, and I learned a lot
Right.
later, thinking maybe I should have lumped a few more units. It's just too much detail for a tiny map, but it's there and it's legitimate.
I
and
can see your style already. I mean,
Yeah.
you've stuck with just the kind of general look and the
Mm-hmm.
style, and this I recognize as you.
Well, previously, and maybe we should grab an older
Sure.
book.
Oh yeah, those old. You don't still have
Let's
any
see.
first editions from.
Oh,
like,
sure.
To see the old.
Yes,
Like what
this
are we
is
talking about?
one of our best sellers, but it's actually one of our older books, and it is
Right.
in the queue to be revised, but it's several years out. But for instance, these are our 2-color books. So let's
Yeah.
pull up an example map.
This is pre you
Yes, pre-Chelsea.
by decades maybe. I don't know.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the
this one
80s?
was first printed in what do we got here? No, that's 79 originally. Yeah,
Okay.
it looks like, yeah.
Yep.
15th printing though. I mean, we've gone through a lot.
Interesting.
And the printings are about maybe 5,000 to 10,000 copies a piece. Like, I'm not sure what that is, but
Okay.
anyway, we were very limited in
mean,
how the maps were
yes,
constructed. So
yes.
we had hashes, we had cross hatching, we had polka dots, we had whatever we could use, and they were cutting out little pieces of paper and making it work. I mean, digital mapping is a completely different method at this point.
And we're
So-
back in my vintage now.
Right.
We're doing all that cutting and taping and
Yeah.
everything. And so yes, I mean even to have a little bit of color, like I remember those first like Montana books. I'm not sure, was there any color, or is there maybe one little?
Maybe one, like a red and black. That's
right.
kind of what we had to work with.
Yes.
And so fast forwarding to our most recent book, this is my proudest book, The Roadside Geology of Idaho, not only because I live there now, but also because this is the first book we've actually intentionally put shaded relief beneath our maps. So just draping the geology over the shaded relief gives a lot of context. You'll see a lot of similarities to our previous maps. But
I see the relief, yeah, okay.
And we've also included the unit abbreviations back onto the maps, and these tiny little letters will associate with the legend. Our previous books had the legend at the beginning of the book, so there was a lot of flipping to the front of the book.
Oh, right.
But part of my job is the layout of making sure it all fits on a 6x9 page. So I do a lot of tweaking, moving things around, making them work, making sure we don't have any letters crashing into pointers. And
yes.
I mean, if I was to explain what I do in about an hour, it would fill a 10-page document probably.
Exactly.
Of just making sure it's legible, right? And also the geology is accurate. So I spend a lot of time on the National Geologic Mapping Database by the USGS, and I verify everything. I'm pulling up the state map. I'm pulling up a most recent quad map to make sure has this been updated.
Yeah.
We do trust our authors that they provide valid information, but we also double check and go, and that's where I come in as a geology background,
right.
Is that I want to make sure that this is legitimate and that it's accurate. So I feel very proud of this one because this is
one of your favorites. I can
well,
tell.
yeah.
Look at that. Oh, I can feel the bumps on my fingertips here, for goodness sake.
Well, and I have to give a shout out to Loudon Stanford. He was the cartographer, geologist, map maker for the Idaho state map that came out, and it's a fabulous map to work with because I didn't have to do a whole lot of tweaking and smoothing and managing the data. It was a beautiful map to begin with, so I cut and managed from there to create the road maps. One of the best exercises that I ever did was looking at, so I spent a year at the Virginia Geological Survey on a grant. And we got the opportunity to lay out quad maps from every survey in the country that submitted them. So we were looking at just what everybody submitted to the National Geologic Mapping Database. So we got a little view into how the quads were made and what the standards were.
Yes.
And it was a fabulous learning experience because I got to see side by side what caught my eye and what was clear and very pleasing to the eye with color ranges and line weight and that kind of thing, and shaded relief. And at that time, this was back in 2010, I believe, Loudon's state map of Idaho, before I knew I was moving to Idaho, caught my eye, and I was like, that's a beautiful map. And it was just funny that 3 years later I ended up moving there, and my husband worked with him and everything. So it's a funny little roundabout story.
Well, before we lose this, so you are on the cover for the first time, did you say?
This is the second one. So the first time was Montana, which just won the High Plains Book Award for 2021.
Congratulations. There you are.
Yeah, and
nice.
I have a weird job because I'm not an author and I'm not a photographer and I'm not an editor, but I play a huge role in getting the book to publication, getting it out the door. And so I do have a website, and if you go to the website, cmcfeeney.com.
cmcfeeney.com.
I have a little brochure here too.
Oh, good.
Oh
my God, here's Marley Miller herself right here. So this is Marley Miller, author of Oregon and co-author of the Washington.
And the New Oregon Rocks.
Oh, let's do a little plug, Marley. We're filming. I hope you're okay.
I saw you walking and I thought I'd chase you down, but then I saw you were filming.
Well, no, that's good. And are you comfortable saying a couple words here?
Sure. Can I have a sip of coffee?
Yeah. So, how much did you guys go back and forth here? Like putting, I'm sorry, now you're the exception. You did your books. You did your maps as opposed to...
I drew the maps, but then Chelsea made them beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you did.
Well, let's see an
Oregon,
example.
okay.
So, what did I do for yours? I feel like I added shaded relief.
You added shaded relief, and then you've sort of you use a consistent format, whereas somehow consistency isn't one of my strengths.
But that
You have
is
a lot
one
of
of
strengths,
mine,
though.
which is why I like going from cover to cover.
Oh.
So I get I get all these files from the authors, and I say, okay, I've got this idea of how when we thumb through the book,
Yeah.
we want it to kind of look
Yeah.
a certain way.
Let's get a couple examples here.
So here's just some
So
how to get their maps.
All the maps look much better after Chelsea gets a hold of them.
Thank you.
I mean, it's amazing because I'm kind of proud of my drafting abilities.
As
You should be.
And then I send them off to Chelsea, and they come back. It's like, wow, those are so much better.
Well, that's her deal, man. And
Thank
you do
you.
so much more than just make the maps, but that's a big part. So the roadside of Oregon, mostly your maps, Chelsea.
Improved upon.
Oh yes,
always.
yes. Well, and she
Yeah.
provides really excellent files to work with. So well organized, good layers, saved correctly in the right format.
See what I'm hearing now? I'm hearing that's not all authors.
Well,
totally
there's a lot of
organized.
varying abilities
Yes.
out there, and
Right.
so I love that I can be the standard and kind of pull it all in and get it publishable. I think that's a big part of my job is taking a little sketch and taking it to completion and getting it to Jen, who will then say, yes, we're done. But that could be 5 years down the line.
Just need to hear you. That's okay. Thanks for.
It's always been one of our best-selling books. And Marley gets out and sells it too. Like,
Yeah.
You always have your books.
Give talks and stuff.
Yeah. But I don't know what it is about Oregon. But
It's a great state. You're from Oregon.
I'm from Oregon, yeah.
How about Washington? How about that? How's that book been doing? Not to compare, not like it's an arms race, but like.
Honestly, I don't know because my end of the business isn't sales.
Okay.
So
Our sales guy will be back. You
Yeah,
can talk with him.
he could tell you.
Adam,
Okay.
he'll
I
be
think
back.
Washington does well too. All of the western states do much better than anything in the east.
Here's Paul Link.
Beautiful products for sure.
Woo.
Hello. How are you? Hey, good.
Paul Link. Oh God, it's like this is orchestrated or something.
Oh, we did. Yes, we did not plan this, but
All right.
So you want me to just sign these all?
well, yeah.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Nick. Nick on the rocks.
Nick on the rocks. He's here.
All right.
Yeah.
Back to you now.
Oh,
Come on.
back to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So authors can see what can I submit because I can draw this on paper with crayons.
Yes.
Can you use that? And I
Right.
say yes, I can. And then they come out looking something like this. So this is an example from the Roadside Geology of Montana. There's no shaded relief underneath this one. However, this is an up-to-date modernization, second edition Roadside Geology of Montana, and this
Good.
one was about 5 years in the making,
Oh, yeah.
maybe 7. Can't remember.
You know, why I'm so tight here, let me just ask you things I've been curious about. Do you choose colors that are uniform across the books? Like, do you reserve different shades of pink or something for Plutons or?
I try to.
Yeah.
Within one book for sure.
Uh-huh.
I have
Oh, yeah.
consistency within one book.
Yeah.
Because I've worked on so many of the titles, I do have kind of a running legend that I kind of grab over, especially adjacent states. And so I assume that people will be collecting these books as they drive through, and so
Yep.
I want to make sure that I have consistency in the legends. That being said, I also try to use coloring that's consistent with geologic maps. So oftentimes we try to organize our information for the lay readers. So oftentimes the coloring will be, I would say the coloring is mostly dependent upon the age.
Yeah.
So green Cretaceous. But if I have 15 Cretaceous units in an area,
Right.
that gets really challenging.
Right.
So I try to stick to that coloring, but if I have, I also include the lithologies too. So yeah, pink granites and maybe orange volcanics, or but that's where the living standard comes in.
Oh,
I try
yeah.
to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're heavy.
Well,
but-
for instance, I'm going to be doing some new programs on the Eocene plutons across the Northwest,
Yeah.
and I haven't done it yet, but I was hoping to sit down with Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and easily see a bunch of Eocene plutons, a bunch of Cretaceous plutons,
Yes.
a bunch of whatever, and I should be able to generally...
Yes, and you could also contact me. I save every file I work on.
Oh, you do?
Of course, yes. Copyright issues, that would be a Jennifer thing. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure.
Yeah.
But once I hand over the maps to Mountain Press, they own the copyright of the book.
Okay.
So that would be something to figure out. But I also create all my maps usually from scratch. They are derivatives from a state geologic map,
Right.
but I then modify from there and simplify and get our point across to the readers. So there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Totally.
So Montana won the High Plains Book Award. This is one of our RG series. So the State Rock series, that's
Okay.
another one coming out. It's been out, well, I guess we're building upon our collection here, but this one just won the Idaho Book Award for 2020.
What is the thought for the State Rock series versus the Roadside? Is there a
Yes.
different audience for those?
I would say yes. So I'm just going to flip this one around. So what we do for the State Rock series, or Geology Rocks, is that we pick about 50 to 60 sites around each state that we are working on. And these are a different format. They are 1 to 2 page spreads
Okay.
of information. So let me just open up to a
Please.
site here.
I got my backpack in the middle.
Oh.
Everything here. Let me get this off to the side.
Let's see.
You're such a good sport. Thanks for doing this
Oh, of
without
course.
any
No, I
kind of
really
chatting ahead of time.
I'm really happy to do it. So I am a co-author on this one, so shameless
Look at
plug.
you.
But
God, your agent's really working overtime here.
but for the format of our State Rock series, it's a page spread, so it kind of dives right into a specific site,
Okay.
gives you a map, some pictures, some context, and really, I would say these are designed to just get out there on a weekend and go pick something nearby and go
Yes.
check it out. But you're getting the background, you're getting the geology of why it's important, and we not only pick a geographic spread across the state,
Yep.
but we also try to choose a little bit of everything. So you're going to get Quaternary, you're going to get Pleistocene glaciation, you're going to get the granites, you're going to get the batholiths, you're going to get the basalt, you're going to get a little bit of everything with this series.
Yeah.
And so, you're always going to have somebody say, oh, I wish my site was in there.
Right.
But there is an overarching thought behind how we organize it. We want to present the geology of Idaho in a really, or our state, in a very enticing way to get people out the door. You can imagine if you're going through and it's all about basalt.
Right.
There's got to be more out there.
Right.
So, but yeah, we've got some.
Give us another example. So, yeah, I'm just kind of thinking. Okay, so these are maybe less hardcore
Sure.
viewers or
Sure.
readers. They don't want to fight through a bunch of the details in a roadside book. Like you say, they're just like, yeah, where do I go? What are some of the best places to go? And
what's the story behind it?
yes. So you don't choose photo in this state
So-
series.
So in this particular book, John Birch is our photographer.
Okay.
He's out of the, I believe, Caldwell, Boise area, and he got to fly drones and helicopters and got to go
Oh,
to all the
wow.
cool places. I
Okay.
live vicariously through him.
Yes.
And follow up with the maps. But and then our authors Reed and Mark, they kind of spread across the state and divided out the sites, but we all contributed on the content. But yeah, I would say that this is kind of. Let's see. It's not a coffee table book. You want to take a look at what it is, but you
Exactly.
also want to go and pound on the rocks. So
Yes.
it's just a different format.
Right.
But you'll see these are just a different way to organize the information. The Roadside Geology books are fairly comprehensive. You drive from point A to point B, and you're learning everything along the way with selected sites to stop at. And even so, we can't include everything, you know. But the more recent books, we try to include GPS locations and make sure that everybody gets to the right spot.
A grumpy old man who would say, "I already got it. I've had my roadside of Montana since 1973. So why would I get the new one?" Can you put a fine point on it? What's in that second edition that just came out that's not in the first one?
For Montana?
Yeah.
Well, there are some different interpretations.
Okay.
For sure, we didn't really understand metamorphic core complexes the same way we do now. And I only mention that because I worked on the Anaconda metamorphic core complex with my master's. But yeah, we've got some just better understanding. And give geology 30 years, and you will see how much we learn. I mean. We thought argon-argon dating was the most accurate technique, and now we realize, oh, hold on, that's a pretty wide age range. Like, let's try to hone it in. Let's try maybe uranium lead dating or zircon, or, you know, we've got just more techniques. And the new Roadside Geology of Idaho is also very different. We get the most recent, accurate information we possibly can. So. But yes, it's very collaborative. We have people for Idaho, Paul Link, Keegan Schmidt, and Sean Wilsey, very different specialties. And then they'll submit it to me and say, okay, make sure that this is accurate and legitimate. So, but yes, we work together very closely. So.
Okay, last question, I promise, and then I'm done. It's been really fun to talk to you.
Sure.
So somebody's watching this video and they have their copy of a certain state.
Yes.
And they're asking themselves, I wonder how much of Chelsea's work is in the book that I have.
Ooh.
So can we just kind of quickly go through, you say Idaho and Montana are your newest books and kind of have the most of you in them as far as on the cover and also the detailed map. I've done almost every one of these.
Well, for instance, this is a third edition of the Roadside Geology of Colorado.
Third edition?
Yes.
Wow.
The first two were our 2-color books, and the third edition, the second edition was fairly complete, but it was 2 colors. So the third edition was truly me just digitizing and colorizing the older books. So I like to call these the blob maps. They're like amoebic.
Oh, it's truly the map that existed in black and white or one color?
It's an upgrade into color, a little easier to read.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
But for instance, I learned from this book, my little legend boxes were a little too tiny, and that was some feedback that I got. And so in Idaho and Montana, the legend boxes are a little bit larger. So little things that I learned along the way.
That's good. You're listening to people. That's good.
Yes, definitely.
You're not going, bullshit, this is the way I do it. I'm not changing the way I'm doing it.
No, I love the feedback. For instance, Alaska, this one was great. I loved working with Kathy. She provided some projector plastic kind of covering over top of a road map and just drew all over it and said, here, make a map out of this.
Interesting.
So I took, Alaska's a huge state, but there are only a couple roads. They're just really long. So let's see if I can come out. So, and mostly these were organized by terrain.
Oh, I remember this one. And again, like an idiot, I'm going, wow, Kathy really knows how to make maps. I never dreamt it would be somebody at Mountain Press making all these things.
Sure.
Oh, God. So she gave you a hideaway map, essentially, for this one.
She gave me the map boundaries and said, this is the extent that you need to cover, but go from there. Yeah. So that's an example of one that, yes, I did from scratch. Let's see. We wanted to do something similar for Northern and Central California where we just colorized it, but I found that the map was a little antiquated. And so I went and found that the state geologic map for California had been updated, and I wanted to use that data. Good. And so...
these are also beautiful.
And again, they're also fairly amoebic.
The blobbies.
The blobs, but they tell the story.
They sure do.
But... again, this is before we reintroduce the unit abbreviations. We've had some feedback about like, hey, the colors are a little too close to see. So we've learned along the way. Let's see. No, I didn't work on these. This was the very first book I worked on with Mountain Press, Missouri. This was actually I was born in Missouri, so I was raised in Virginia, but born in Missouri. Okay. But this was I was so green. It was my first one, so I didn't know how to do it, but I was learning on the job, and but I had a lot of good examples. And this one, the exposures and maybe the road intersections or something came up where he really wanted the county lines on there. So that's not always on there. It sometimes muddles it, but for this particular book, we kept them on there.
Okay.
But I don't mean that I didn't know what I was doing. I was just very green.
Again, it's very impressive, even if you feel like this was kind of at the early years.
Yeah, early
for
years
what you
for
were
me.
doing. Yeah.
And we already talked about New Jersey. Let's see. I'm very proud of Tennessee.
Okay.
It's a very beautiful geology. You've got, and I think we wrapped this one. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Nice. So our original books, we were kind of known as the yellow guidebooks.
Yes.
So we kind of moved a little bit in trying to do some other colors, but the yellow ones really do grab you. So we're trying to go back to that. But
You are, aren't you? I didn't even notice that.
Well,
okay.
in different variations. So you've
Got
got
it.
a couple options for the front cover. You know, you've got some drawings, right? Some drawings like this. We've got some photos or the state geologic map, which is what I like to do, is to include the actual state geologic map. But what that does is sometimes that state geologic map might have a lot of quaternary, and you can't put that on a yellow background. So we have to think about that a little bit.
Right.
But this one was just really
that's
pretty.
gorgeous,
you know?
yeah.
And it really does pop out, that Ordovician in the middle, in the pink. But I worked with, so Marcy Davis with this one, and she provided a lot of the maps that I got to work on and standardize. But let's see. But yeah, I'm always trying to improve what it looked like, you know, and what we've got. I did also the same with West Virginia. And I just feel like the way that you choose the coloring, sometimes the geology can just hop off the page, like it just jumps in your face if it's colored right and you can see it. So you've got this valley and ridge and
Totally agree.
very,
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot in
Yeah,
geology
Appalachian
don't
Delta.
really value the colors or whatever, but to me, it's a big deal.
You know, a long time ago, I took a design appreciation class at Virginia Tech, and it really did kind of help me with, you know, choosing the color palette.
Yeah.
And my sister is an interior designer, and we took that class together. It was funny. She ended up going into that for a while, and it really did help me kind of say, okay, how do I make this pleasing to the eye?
Yeah.
We have our files in CMYK versus RGB. It's just the coloring of the Illustrator files. But I feel like it helps kind of know like the palettes and the Pantone and kind of, you know, that kind of part of it.
Yes.
We have another lady, Jeannie, who works in the production and layout. So the actual look of the book and the organization of, you know, a little side trip here and there. She helps do all of that. So it's very collaborative. And I tell the authors, you need just one huge Word document for the text, one folder for the photos, and one folder for the figures, and they all get put into InDesign, and the magic happens there, and then I get to see the page proofs. But yeah, they're just organizing it to certain ways. Let's see.
Have we talked about
We
these
haven't
yet?
talked about these. Okay.
This is a whole nother part of the series?
Yes. So we are in Portland right now, so close enough to Western Washington. We can take a look at this one. So Dave Tucker was a colleague of ours when we lived in Bellingham, and so these are organized a little bit differently. So they're not roadside guides from point A to point B, but they are vignettes in certain areas that give a whole lot more background detail. So it's sort of organized like the State Rock series, but more detail. So those are 60 sites with 1 or 2 pages. These are 20 to 25 sites with a whole book on them.
Oh,
so this is I would say probably more technical.
It's like a hybrid, maybe between the state.
Yeah, and it's a specific area, a region that people want to learn more about.
Yeah.
Not just arm waving geology,
Right.
but some really good research.
Right. All right, so other southern Idaho, western Washington. Oh, wow. I didn't know there was a southern Utah or
Yeah.
a northern Arizona.
And we've got.
You're involved in these too?
I just finished working on the second edition of the Geology Underfoot of Death Valley and Eastern California, and keeping your eye open for that because that should be out by March. There's a GSA sectional meeting in Las Vegas, I believe, so we're really hoping to get those books out so people can take them with them. I've worked on a few of these. I'm getting more into them, but
You've been busy.
I have been busy. I have, and I'm raising 2 kids. So.
Oh, God.
But it's great. I love it, and it's something that I I've trained to do it. I have a very specific set of skills that I hope that help the authors.
Well, I'm a huge fan, and I just see one that I need to purchase right now.
Yes, that is in the queue for being revised. You might want to take a look at our status map over here. We always try to update that for the shows. So excuse me. And it's a little tiny, you might want to zoom in. But so the dark green maps, the dark green states are the titles they're done. They're in color, they're up to date, they're good to go. The ones with the lighter green, they are in color, they are printed but not in color. Some of them have asterisks, so they're in the process of being revised.
Yep.
And then we've got some that have yet to be written, those are the grays. We've got some that are contracted, that they're in process, so those are the yellows. And then the out of print, but some of those are also being worked on. So we've just kind of let the older ones kind of slip off a little bit as we work on some newer titles. So our queue goes out for years. It's great. I've got job security.
Wonderful. Hey,
but
it was really nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. It was nice to meet you too.
Best wishes to you. I hope this helps with getting your work out there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.